How long have you been on YouTube, Mr.
Dude.
Mr. Dude?
No, it's Dude Seriously. Welcome to the Dude Seriously Show. Hey guys, welcome to the Dude Seriously Show. Well, we're continuing down the road to Infinity War, and it's brought us to Doctor Strange. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Michael.
Jared.
Charles Conklin.
So, what did you think about Doctor Strange?
I loved it. It's one of my. It's not the top, but it's one of my favorites.
Same for me. It's an enjoyable watch. Everything's super well explained. It's probably middle of the pack for me.
Yeah, I'm very similar. It's not my favorite, and full disclosure, I've never been a big fantasy, mystical, magical kind of fan of movies. It's just, they're still great movies and things like that. It's just not a genre that I'm particularly invested in. But there are aspects of this movie that I really like, and it's upper middle for me in my MCU rankings.
I have to say it's towards the bottom of my list, and that not being a bad thing. As we've often said, it's hard to not like a Marvel movie, but as Marvel movies go, it's just not my favorite.
Well, with that, no matter where you fall, something really stellar about this movie is the effects. I saw this movie twice in theaters, both times in IMAX 3D. The first time because that was the earliest showing I could get to, and the second time because it was so good the first time that I had to see it in 3D the second time. And particularly that opening scene with the Ancient One and Caecilius and his zealots, where they're in that alternate mirror dimension, and they're fighting and they're running up buildings, and the buildings are chopping in and out of themselves. The effects just right off the bat really set the tone before we even meet Doctor Strange, which I thought was something really interesting, how to immerse you into this mystical world.
It's also kind of cool how, we don't actually meet the title character until, we're a good 10, 15 minutes into the film. And then of course, like you said, you have all that really cool opening visual scene, but then the movie gets really grounded when we do meet the character, and it stays grounded until he gets to Comitage.
Yeah, which I actually really like. Personally, I think I actually like the first third of this movie better than the Doctor Strange stuff. Not that I don't like it, it's just I really like that grounded stuff, but going back to my predisposition, I tend to like a little more grounded, less fantastic style movies. But I love how we meet Doctor Strange. He's this arrogant character, and he's not the same kind of arrogant as Tony Stark. Tony Stark, you watch him be arrogant and you like him, and you still like Doctor Strange because of his arrogance, but it's oh man, how does he get away with saying it? Yeah, there's no other way.
Only because he's in the position that he is, being at the hospital, and he knows what he can do. He's a prick.
And at the hospital, he's doing that brain operation, and he's tapping his toe while he's listening to music, and he's calling out trivia. It's oh my god, this guy is he's something else.
Cucumber Patch takes it to a different level in regard to pretty arrogant about it. They even say, where they find the person with a bullet in the brain, they say, this isn't the time to show off because he's going to freehand it. And he literally looks over the guy that made the wrong diagnosis and says, cover your watch, and I'm going to show you what I can do. And he pulls it out. It's okay, well, you're good, yes, but you don't have to be pompous about it.
Yeah. Well, for him, I do think he has to.
Yeah, it's part of his character.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to see his transition from that to later on in the movie where he kind of realizes who he was and who he's become.
So talking about Bumbleduke Kazerpatch, it really brings us to the casting of this movie. It's a really small cast, but every single cast member is just world class.
This is probably the best cast we've ever seen in one Marvel film. This is an ensemble to itself. I mean, this movie probably should have cleaned up at the Oscars, but didn't because it's a comic book movie. But that's the caliber of actor and performances that we have in this film.
As far as the casting goes, I really like Tilda Swinton. I thought that she did a really great job of having these little comedic, humorous moments where she relates to Strange as a person. But on top of that, she's really serious. Her death scene, she's literally contemplating her place in the universe and what does it mean to die. And she's scared to go. She's the Ancient One, the one above all as far as, the magic users go, and even she's scared to die. And I think that that's a really heavy topic to talk about in a superhero movie, which generally get cast aside as popcorn flicks. I think Doctor Strange starts to turn that conversation.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Scott Derrickson, the director, got a little bit of flack for casting her, not just because she's a woman, but because she's not Asian. But, you know, in the comic book, the Ancient One wasn't always an Asian dude, an old Asian dude. The Ancient One was changed his form because he had that ability. So
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This movie is about magic. And we know a little bit about magic in the MCU, but we haven't seen it on this level. And what I really like about Doctor Strange is that it doesn't negate what we understand about how magic works in this universe, because our first introduction to that is in Thor.
Your ancestors called it magic, and you call it science. Well, I come from a place where they're one and the same thing.
And so in Doctor Strange, you know, we see magic on a whole new level compared to anything we've seen before, but the way that it's explained, you know, Doctor Strange is talking to the Ancient One, and, you know, he says,
You're talking about cellular regeneration. That's bleeding edge medical tech.
and so he's still talking about science, and the Ancient One doesn't say that he's wrong or right, it's just that's how it is, but they've learned how to control that. And so what I really like is that Doctor Strange is still a doctor and a wizard at the same time. The fact that he's a scientist, a doctor, will add into the fact that he can become a better Sorcerer Supreme than the Ancient One, because while she understands the quote-unquote magic side, Doctor Strange is learning that, but he also knows the science side, so that eventually he'll become the
While
greatest.
he's training, she also references that too. She says, your intellect has taken you this far, it's not going to be able to take you any further. You need to open your mind to everything else from this point, which is when she leaves him on Everest, and he has to learn how to do that. But still, yeah, that's a perfect point that, you know, from this point on, and it kind of touches on it a little bit in Ragnarok for the little bitty cameo that he does have in there, because it just seems like it's so much easier for him to just transition, even to the point where Thor's like, okay, man, you got to slow down, because I'm getting nauseous over here with all the stuff you're doing. And it's just really cool to see his maturation. Like you said, you don't see it at the end of the movie, but I'm excited to see what he is going to be able to be capable of doing in Infinity Wars.
Oh
so,
my gosh. Just a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
All that time he spent studying, because you know that's, again, what he says in the movie. He's a doctor. How did you learn to become a doctor, is what the Ancient One asks him. He says, through practice, study, and years of it. And you know, we've had a little bit of time for him to be able to do that. So he
well,
should
and you see him, he's still studying.
Yeah.
In Ragnarok.
Yep.
Because he's, you know, making
That's
sure
literally
that,
what he's doing, going from place to
yeah.
place to pull off books and shelves.
Yeah. And then I need a strand of your hair.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the wrong movie here, so.
Soon enough, we're getting there. There's a really cool scene where the Ancient One pushes him into that astral plane, and he's falling through all of these different dimensions, and we see a little tease for the dark dimension with Dormammu. But if you pay attention, there's also a slight moment where he is in the mini-verse that we see in Ant-Man.
Yes.
And that's a confirmed reference.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how Ant-Man and Doctor Strange's worlds start to collide as they become, you know, next phase of the Avengers in Phase 4
I
and
wonder
beyond.
if Doctor Strange will have a hand in helping them with that.
He could. So playing off of that point, though, Dormammu, right? He's this extra-dimensional being. He has his own dimension, and he's one of Doctor Strange's big bads from the comics. So having him play an integral part of this movie was really great. And something interesting is they'll never have to recast him, because the fun fact is that Babadook Cabbage Patch actually did the face tracking and the voice for Dormammu. So pretty neat.
That's really
It's
cool.
like looking in the mirror.
It is.
It's kind of funny.
And he came to bargain.
Over and over and over again.
It's kind of a Groundhog Day moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Groundhog Day in the MCU, is that our confirmation?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Bill Murray, if you're listening.
Now I want to know who Bill Murray would be in the MCU.
Bill Murray.
Yeah, he would just be himself.
Yeah,
Bill Murray.
Yeah. So Doctor Strange, as we said, he's not the master, he's the student in this film. And, you know, he's learning quickly and he's learning more about this world, but as he finds out about Dormammu, that's when his world starts to be shaken. He's like, I'm not here to fight a war, I'm here to fix my hands, and that's it. And so as he's talking to the Ancient One and Mordo, he basically says that I'm not here to fight your war, and I'm not going to do that. And as soon as he says that, the Sanctum is attacked and he's forced into fighting, which is a nice little parallel because Mordo said earlier, you have to fight like your life depends on it because one day it just might. Well, I think that it might have been written just a little bit stronger if instead of him, saying that he's not going to fight this war and then boom, the attack happens, if he says, I'm not going to fight your war, and Mordo and the Ancient One are like, then maybe your place isn't here. And they kind of mutually agree to go separate ways, and as Doctor Strange is packing his bags, then they're attacked. And he has to decide, okay, am I going to go back to my life of being arrogant and being a doctor and having nothing to do with this, or am I going to get involved and save these people that helped save my life? So then when he goes to attack, it's a little bit more meaningful than it is, immediate response.
Yeah.
I just think that would take it one level deeper.
Marvel's done that a lot in their movies where they had that contemplation moment about why am I doing what I'm doing and is it the right thing to do?
Sure.
But instead they go directly into that fight or flight situation. And I think that
Great way to put it.
in that whole situation where he's immediately thrown into New York and he comes against Tricycle and his zealots.
Tricycle?
I'm trying to think of.
Do you mean Caecilius?
Tricycle.
You can't say Caecilius.
I'm just gonna say it, but pretty much.
You should have just said Galen Erso.
I'm ready to see Mad Mikkelsen's acting as Tricycle. It's an instant hit. It's an instant classic.
It's gonna happen.
So Easter eggs in this movie. There's one of them that I think is kind of strange.
Pun intended.
Sorry. And that's towards the beginning of the movie. He's having this phone conversation right before he has the big accident, and they're talking about like this Air Force pilot that suffered a fall and he's paralyzed from the waist down. Which immediately I thought, oh, a reference to War Machine.
Yeah.
But then later on they said, oh no, that's not War Machine. And it's like, then why would you say that? Why would you have that in the movie? Like,
It's so oddly specific.
yeah. But then when you look at the timeline, it's like, well, that had to have happened a while before, because this happens about the same time as War Machine suffered his accident. The main part of the movie. So this would have had to have predated that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
that
like,
is
why
weird.
put
It's
that
like
in?
a non-Easter egg.
Yeah. It's like you can have this piece of candy. Oh no, you can't.
And speaking of Easter eggs, early in the movie too, actually right before the scene that you just mentioned, we hear Interstellar Overdrive by Pink Floyd, which is one of their earlier instrumental songs, and it fits so well. It's that driving guitar, it's so cool, but it was not chosen by accident. Pink Floyd and the Doctor Strange character actually have a long history of referencing each other. Perhaps the most obvious reference visually is on Pink Floyd's album cover, Saucer Full of Secrets. You can actually see Doctor Strange. It's kind of this psychedelic look on the album, but Doctor Strange is literally on the cover of one of their albums. Yep.
The imagery of the movie is very psychedelic. The film is very much a love letter to Steve Ditko's artwork, which was in its own way very psychedelic for Doctor Strange at least it was. And so they drew a lot of influence from the film visually from Steve Ditko's work. So that's always great when they can reference the comic like that.
Another fun Doctor Strange fact: the original character of Doctor Strange in the comics was actually drawn to look like he was based on Vincent Price.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Speaking of music, one thing I could not unhear for anybody that's seen Star Trek Beyond, it's the same exact composer and it's almost the same exact music. It's got a few notes that are different, but it's literally like I felt like I was watching Star Trek because it was that. And you can't, once you hear it, and if you've seen that movie, you won't be able to unhear it. Wow. It's not bad by any means. It's just like as soon as you hear it, that's all you can think of is like the Enterprise rising out of the clouds. It's like, okay, well, I don't remember what I'm watching now. So.
It's like Elton John's song for Princess Diana. Oh, I'll just take my Marilyn Monroe song and change it a little.
Yeah.
And with that, we're going to bring this episode to a close. So, Doctor Strange, it's middle tier and maybe a little bit lower for us, but generally regarded pretty positive among the majority crowd. So it was fun to review, and if nothing else, it brings us one episode closer to Avengers Infinity War. So thanks for tuning in, and be sure to leave a comment below letting us know what you thought of Doctor Strange. This has been a fun episode of the Dude Seriously Show, and Dude Seriously, we'll see you next week. Bottle.
Oh yeah, the guy that does the voice for Smog.
Yes. Yes.
Bottle cap cummerbund.